All right, we are live, and today we are going to consider the question, why is OnlyFans rejecting their biggest source of revenue? Now, I know it's been in the financial news a lot, even in the regular news. It's been, all over the internet, especially YouTube. I'm seeing a lot of videos on YouTube about how, OnlyFans is ejecting porn content and all these creators. I think there's an implied, um, you know, um, an implied tone of, maybe sinful creators or, uh, you know, um, about sex workers and all those kinds of things, and saying, there's almost a gleeful tone um, in some of the headlines. Especially, I'm talking about the YouTube videos, because they're not always so professional that now they're gonna have to work for a living and have to go back to working at Wendy's or something like that. I mean, it's just ridiculous. The kind of takes that I'm seeing on the internet. But I want to assure you that we are going to be more professional. There's no judgment here. We're going to look at this recent development uh, purely from an economics perspective. As an economist, I want to talk about this, especially because I had done a previous video with some tongue-in-cheek humor about the valuation of OnlyFans. If you want to check that out, I talk in more detail about the potential valuation and that sort of thing. So if that's of interest to you, I did that, and like I said, I did it in tongue-in-cheek, thinking that it was going to be a fun topic to discuss within the context of me talking about the things that you would learn in MBA school, business valuation, analyzing a business model. And I said, there are some things, legit things to be learned here by looking at the OnlyFans business model, its success as a social media company, and the fact that it went through some unusual conditions as, because of the success that it got from the pandemic lockdown. And then there was some rumors or talk going around that it was seeking a billion dollar valuation for a potential IPO. So I thought, okay, let's talk about that and teach some lessons, from MBA school about business valuation. But little did I know that, only a few weeks later, in fact, OnlyFans, in fact, is moving forward with ejecting their porn content, and now it's become quite a serious topic of discussion in finance circles, right? So this lesson will be some economics, but also more MBA school. So I do have an MBA also, and I'm looking at this recent news from that perspective. So with all that said, sorry for the long preamble. Um, we really need to talk about, why is OnlyFans, um, throwing out their porn content? Because we all know why they're so successful, and you'll see that in one of the graphs, right? You will see that, and when we start crunching the numbers. Okay, so we're gonna answer the question about rejecting the revenue source, the biggest revenue source. We're gonna crunch the numbers, and at the end of the video, I will give you my final thoughts and takeaways. But um, yeah, so as a business, I mean, it's simply a matter of numbers, right? Certainly, for them, for the management of OnlyFans, and certainly on my part, I'm not one to apply any kind of moral tone to this kind of analysis, because as long as you're within the law, right, it's not for me to say what other people do. We live in a capitalist society with private property rights, and people are free to choose whatever employment, or make whatever choices that they feel is appropriate for themselves. So again, so for this video, there's going to be no judgment. We're going to crunch into the numbers. So let's press on. But before we do that, in my research, I did find some amusing facts about how OnlyFans started, and I present this stuff for you I show you for your amusement. and nothing too racy. I'm simply going to be talking about the history of how OnlyFans actually came about. So the founder, um, Stokely, founded OnlyFans after creating a series of lesser-known online businesses. I had no idea. We all kind of assumed that OnlyFans was an original concept and it blew out of nowhere. But in 2011, he created Glam Worship, a site specializing in a sexual fetish known as financial domination. And in fact, it sounds exactly what it sounds like, and certainly has strong echoes of OnlyFans because it's basically, you know, customers or fans giving money to, I guess, a dominatrix, or it says in this article, dominant partner. Um, and Glam Worship customers increasingly gave suggestions on what they'd like to see from the site's several hundred models, many of whom started to accept custom video requests through Twitter. Now, does that sound familiar? Yes, it does. That is the nascent birth of OnlyFans. So, a little bit more about the origins. Um, so, this guy, who, give him credit, has had huge success in his social media company. Stokely had tried for years to get all types of creators to use the site. It worked great as a it works as a great bolt-on to free social media, he said. One of our selling pitches is, quote, look, you got 1 million followers on Instagram. If just 1% of them pay for OnlyFans, the average creator charges about $12 per subscriber. By Stokely's math, if 1% of Kim Kardashian's Instagram followers paid for OnlyFans, she would make 23 million a month on the site. Now that is a tremendous amount of money. I don't know about you, but for me, that would be a lot of money, right? And that's only 1% of her Instagram followers paying, I suppose, $12 a month. You know, I'm starting to get the idea that, I'm in the wrong business. Trying to start this economics YouTube channel, right? Maybe I should open an OnlyFans, but I'm not sure what content I would create other than this because I don't think people would pay $12 to see me naked, but hey, maybe I shouldn't sell myself short, right? Anyways, pressing on. Uh, the point of this live stream is really to talk about this, right? OnlyFans is a billion-dollar media company hiding in plain sight. This is an article from Insider, right? And it is. When we run through the numbers, you're going to see that actually, a billion-dollar valuation is not too far off the mark. It's not too outrageous. It's by standard, Wall Street valuation methodology. It's not a outside the realm of an initial, IPO. But I shouldn't say initial because I mean IPO means initial. But there's a couple of questions that come to mind when you look at this topic. Which is basically what took you so long, right? I mean, OnlyFans has been growing at an incredible rate, right? Again, you'll see that in the data. And when a company grows this fast and earns this much money that quickly, the talk about an IPO is only natural. And yet they didn't, and that's really the point here, right? There are several reasons why OnlyFans didn't go as quickly as they might have to IPO. And that goes back to the question that I talked about is why are they rejecting their porn content? Obviously, it's reflective of that, but we want to dig deeper. You know, um, my live streams are about digging deeper into the clickbait headlines and giving you proper perspective and an economics, uh, point of view and a historical point of view about the numbers so that you can place this news in better context. But anyways, obviously something has been kind of a drag on the business model, right? And we're going to talk about that. But first, let's dig into some numbers, okay? Um, so Um, this is a quote from the company founder again, Tim Stokely. Evidently, he's 37. I don't know why they put the age there. I mean, just do we really care? I don't. I don't think you do. But anyways, he's talking about um, the rapid growth of the platform. So it says, according to Stokely, OnlyFans is adding as many as 500,000 users a day, 500,000 a day, and paying out more than 200 million a month to its creators. 200 million a month. That's a substantial change. And it quotes Tim Stokely as saying, "When Beyonce rapped about us on the Savage remix and Cardi B joined the platform, that's when we really start to see the growth accelerate." Now, I want to show you that I selected this picture and this particular quote for a particular reason because it clearly points to a tipping point in the transition, in the development of this platform, the OnlyFans platform, from a core basis of porn content. Let's call it what it is. It is porn content. And I say that without judgment. It is porn content. A lot of the participants or content creators on that site were sex workers, right? And it was actually a welcome relief to them during the pandemic when they're on lockdown and unable to I'm sorry, earn any income because of the social distancing, right? It's hard to do sex work when you get a social distance, I'm sure. Um, and so they all went on OnlyFans, were able to sustain a living for themselves, right? And as an economist, I say, hey, you know what? Customer, a service meets demand, customer meets the supplier. It's all good, right? So that was the core basis. And now, they're talking about Beyonce and Cardi B joining the platform and providing a kind of legitimacy that it never had before, right? It's opening the door to a different kind of perspective, and hopefully, what they're hoping for is a different valuation for the company, right? And so I find this picture fascinating because it is indicative of the tipping point that they've achieved, right? And there's talk about celebrity chefs joining the platform, professional athletes. I'm sure there's NBA players in there. I'm a big fan of the NBA, so um, we're talking about a platform that's on the tipping point, and there's a ton of potential that's going on here. So, anyways, let's press on. Um, and you see the popularity and you see the impact of the pandemic lockdown, right? And practically every video that I do, I seem to be talking about the pandemic. I seem to be talking about the lockdown, but only because it's had such a profound impact on the economy and businesses really all over the world, right? So, but in this case, let's take a quick look at this chart right here. It is relative search volume for three platforms using a similar tipping business model. And the three platforms are Patreon, which is known to, practically everybody. There's OnlyFans and there's Cameo. Now, if you're not familiar with Cameo, um, I'm not a big expert on that, but it's my understanding that you can ask for a well-known, famous person like a celebrity, a professional athlete, and they will give you what they call a shout out to you. If maybe it's your birthday, your friends get together, pull some money to get a shout out from your favorite singer or your celebrity or an athlete, and they send you a message on social media. I'm not sure if it's on Instagram, if they do it on Instagram or they have their own platform, but that's basically it. Patreon is obviously the payment service provider, and we're talking about OnlyFans. But look at uh, the search results and the impact of the pandemic. I mean, it's just absolutely astonishing. I mean, this is when the pandemic hits, and boom, everyone's searching for how to, uh, do content creation on OnlyFans. And you know what? This really points to how important the porn content was to the platform, right? This is obviously because there were so many people, including many millions of women, who were out of work and they thought, hey, you know what? What's to lose? let me go on OnlyFans, possibly share some, risque photos, do some live streaming and all those sorts of things. And if I can drum up a little bit of extra cash on the side, that's all to the good, right? And I can totally understand the motivation. I mean, the economy was really, really suffering. We lost 22 million jobs in the span of only a few months. That's absolutely devastation, absolute devastation. And if you found success through that means, I would say, you know what, good for you, right? You did. I mean, you made some savvy moves. You did what you needed to do to put food on the table, keep a roof over your head, and I'm fine with it, you know. But thinking to the valuation and the business model of OnlyFans, look at the importance of this, and that points to the fact that the porn content or the explicit content was so crucial in driving the growth of the platform, right? After a certain point, you have to ask yourself, does it make sense to actually get rid of this, right? Does it make sense? OnlyFans, to the best of my knowledge, have never released any kind of analytics saying what portion of their revenue is actually coming from the explicit content as opposed to some of the other more generic content, more generic like, cooking classes and educational courses, or possibly, you know, um, economic previews or purviews like I do. I mean, who knows? Maybe I'll open an account. Uh, but anyway, so excuse me, looking at this you know, at this search volume, you can tell, right, the impact of the pandemic and how it has driven so much um, of the explicit content to OnlyFans. And look at the number of creators that we're talking about. In around January 2020, I don't know, maybe I'm gonna say 60,000. It's kind of hard to tell from this chart, but it's going up to a million content creators by December. So in the span of let's call it 12 months, it went from less than 100,000 to over a million content creators. I mean, um, the pandemic was obviously a terrible thing. The economy was doing really poorly, but in terms of the business for OnlyFans, wow. I mean, it was a bonanza. So look at some of the numbers. We're talking about the revenue um, from three subscription or tipping platforms that you saw in the search results, and seriously crunching the numbers here. You can't see here for Cameo, but it's $25 million. So it's for Cameo, it's 25 million, Patreon 35, and OnlyFans $400 million in revenue, right? Right? I mean, OnlyFans started in 2016. Patreon has been around 2013, but their revenues are only 35 million, and OnlyFans is 400 million. I mean, wow! And look at the number of subscribers. Look at the number of content creators. Like I said, a million content creators. I mean, when you look at the search volume here, it's easy to understand how that happened. The interest in OnlyFans as a platform to make side money during the pandemic is just skyrocketed, right? And so when you think about the earnings potential for OnlyFans, um, potentially you could earn between 16,000 to $84,000 per month. Now, we do need to have a little bit of a reality check, right? There was an article in the New York Times that kind of broke down some of the earnings potential, the average earnings for an content creator on OnlyFans, and a lot of women who were sharing explicit material on the platform were only earning $200-300 um, per day, or was it per week? It wasn't anything like that what that they had expected, and so you got the Pareto effect where a small percentage, let's call it 20% of the content creators are earning 80% of the money. That's a ratio that's repeated multiple times in financial results in life in general, right? But anyway, so Given the earnings potential of OnlyFans, we can understand the attraction, right? And so let's get deeper into some of the valuation numbers. We don't have the time to go in depth into a whole, financial statement analysis. Like I said, I also have my MBA. I did also work as a financial analyst for many years, and so I could whip out the balance sheet and income statements and all that kind of stuff. But I think, quite frankly, there's no point for this discussion. We don't need to get into that. But this is the what's called the gross merchandise value, and what that means is, if you're not familiar, is the value of all the goods and services that are sold over a platform, right? So since we're talking about value moving through a platform, and OnlyFans is earning a percentage of that, 20%, I think, is a standard fee. Obviously, this is a good metric to estimate the valuation of any platform, including OnlyFans. And obviously, for the 2021, 2022, uh, you know, GMV, right? It's a projection, but I think I mean, it's hopefully it's quite reasonable. um, but anyways, the expectation is that the value will double year after year. I think 2022 might be a little optimistic. You never want to draw a straight line upward and say it's going to go on to infinity, but clearly we are headed toward a massive growth for this platform. And one thing that I always emphasize when I was doing, a financial analysis, looking at financials, the statements, the balance sheets, and whatnot, free cash flow is a huge, huge thing. And look at the estimation for 2021. Um, right now for 2020, they had 100 million, 50 million in free cash flow, and in 2021, it's projected to be 620 million. So, by free cash flow, if you're not familiar with the term, it's basically after you take gross revenue, you deduct operating costs, and you deduct debt and some miscellaneous items. And by free, what it really means is that you are free as a company to take that money and spend it the way you want. Maybe issue dividends, hire more people, long-term capital investment, whatever you feel is appropriate, R&D investment, that kind of thing. But a company having this much free cash flow, especially if the projections for 2021 is accurate, that's a lot of money. I got to tell you, that's a lot of money, right? And so that's all going to go into the potential valuation. Um, but oops, we got a problem here, folks. Houston, we have a problem. Oh, excuse me. I had to readjust my seat. OnlyFans is looking good. It is looking very, very good in terms of the sheer numbers, and we just got a glimpse of that. And yet, they cannot find investors. And this really, again, ties back to the original question: why is OnlyFans jettisoning their porn content, and can it even afford to do such a thing? Right? Well, excuse me. Um, well, there are reasons for that, and I think the reasons are actually quite serious and should be considered. If by any chance, I mean, it seems inevitable at this point that OnlyFans will do an IPO. If by some chance you are looking to invest or are thinking about putting some money in here uh, after an IPO or whatnot, does OnlyFans deserve to be a part of your portfolio? These are some factors to consider. Okay, so um, the first thing that I think is a little bit unclear is that OnlyFans says it plans to block some sexually explicit content later this year. I think the I think the deadline was December or something. Um, the, this decision represents a major change for the startup that gained success in not safe for work content, and that's really what we've been saying. It is not only a major change, it is a massive change to their business model. They're practically changing business models. I know they're remaining a tipping platform, but they have had such success with their porn content that getting rid of it you know, represents, I think, a transformation of their business model. And is that business model actually viable, right? So here's the confusing part for me. The company said some nude photos and videos would still be allowed on the site. What? I'm not sure how that reconciles with the fact that they're getting rid of porn content. I mean, um, I understand that you could make that divide by saying porn is a little bit more hardcore, a little bit more explicit, and some of the the photos and videos might be implied nude or maybe more tasteful nude, and I believe that those are valid categories. But is a platform wanting to actually make judgments about what is and is not porn on their website? I mean, that's a nightmare, right? Trying to draw that distinction and the complaints that you're going to get and having to mediate such a I don't know. I consider it to be a rather subjective divide between the different types of content. Whether it's artistic or is it hardcore. So that part is a little bit hazy to me. I don't know how they're going to navigate that that divide. But, anyways, I'm sure they've given some thought to that, and perhaps we'll get a better explanation later when they go through that transition. But including reasons for why they're having issues with drawing investors, I think this is one of the biggest thing that you should keep in mind, which is there are legal prohibitions for many venture capital for companies from investing in adult content because the truth is adult content is extremely profitable, right? There's all that talk about how porn was the major financial backer or driver for VHS cassette players and all the tapes and all that stuff, and it's included in their legal charter that they will not invest in explicit content, and so that's definitely a concern. Not every VC, of course, because some investors are simply looking at it from the point of numbers, but you know that's that's there, and it is significant. So, moving on, there are other concerns. So some investors say they could get past the porn. See, I told you, but worry that the company's reputation would prevent it from attracting brand partners, despite this week announcing a quote safer work product that features a growing number of clothes creators. Quite frankly, you know what? I find it hilarious that a company has to make a press release or public statement saying we have a lot of clothes creators. A lot of our creators do keep their clothes on. They're wearing clothes in front of the camera, so don't you worry. you know, okay, I find that hilarious, but that is their business. So um, this is a even bigger concern, I think, than some of the legal constraints for the VCs. Because what they're really talking about is, I think, it's not just brand partners, but it's the advertising that they might be able to attract, right? And uh, for many companies, right, if your platform is branded or renowned for its not safe for work content or flat out explicit porn content, there's going to be some hesitation about advertising with you, right? With OnlyFans. And so they're leaving a lot of money on the table, right? And the management is kind of debating, I think, the point. You remember I was talking about the tipping point between, legitimacy versus the massive income that they receive from their porn content. And it seems to me, based on their statements and some of the information that's getting out, that the management is making the assessment that whatever they lose on the porn content, they may be, hopefully, be able to recover that for the additional advertising that is now available, right? That they will be embraced more fully by more advertisers. I don't know, PepsiCo, you know, or whatever, So and eventually grow the company into its full potential. I have some concerns about that. I talked about that in my previous video about competitors to OnlyFans and using the SWOT analysis and looking at barriers to competition, all that kind of stuff. So check out that video if you want to hear more talk about that. But anyway, in any case, you know, so there is also another very serious concern with OnlyFans, which is that um, it's been identified that pictures of minors who have gone missing have popped up on the website on the platform, and there's serious concern about minors creating content and that creating legal liabilities and legal complications because that's exactly what happened with YouTube. If you are aware of it, you know, um, you know, YouTube had to have a settlement with the SEC. I think it was the SEC or the FTC. But anyways, with the federal government saying we're going to treat children on YouTube as a special class. So many of the advertising that's targeted to the general audience is no longer, um, accessible to kids. When you upload content like I do, I always have to check whether this content is made for kids or not, right? And it's if you had a channel that was made for kids on YouTube, basically you got devastated, you got destroyed. Your ad revenue went to practically nothing, really, really just nothing. That's what I heard. You know, and and so believe me, the presence of minors, especially on a platform that's known for porn content, is a very very serious concern. And why would that be? Well, it's more than the moral and ethical implications because there are things that happen, you know, like I said, by analogy, what happened with YouTube was that, there were some issues with advertising being targeted specifically to kids on their platform. And for that reason, the government intervened. There was a lot of hearings in front of Congress, a lot of pounding of people pounding their fists on the desk, lots of moral outrage, lots of news and headlines. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, right? Kids deserve and need to be protected in our society, right? But there are business considerations and considerations for your business model. And so when that happens, right, the government does intervene. There are regulations that are imposed. And so a lot of investors are concerned about, regulations coming down on OnlyFans, especially for a site that's known for porn content, right? And so that's it. This is the calculation that is being made by the management of the company, saying, number one, if we jettison the porn content and all the revenue that we derive, we can replace that with a new ad revenue that's going to come from um, other advertisers who had previously been hesitant, right? Which probably was a lot of advertisers actually. I mean, when you think about OnlyFans, what do you think of? Yeah, that's basically it, right? Um, and then of course, uh, they're thinking, yeah, you know what? We've had such success and we've had such economies of scale. They have so many users now; it's almost too big to fail, as they say. I don't necessarily agree with that, and I talk about that in the previous video. But at this point, I think OnlyFans um, will make the transition to being free of porn. I don't know the thing about nude photos. I don't know how that distinction is going to be made, but I think they are going to make that transition. I think one form or another, they will continue to make money, right? I have some concerns about their uniqueness because the truth is, um, there are other platforms that offer this, revenue or fee-based, membership um, payment structure. I'm sure there are small competitors who would be happy to offer to take only 10% instead of 20% that that's taken by OnlyFans. But I think the sheer size of the company ensures some measure of success in the future. So it'll be interesting to continue to monitor their growth and the development. But anyways, that's a breakdown in terms of what's going on behind the scenes about their thinking. I'm pretty sure this is their thinking about making this transition and confidently ejecting porn content from the platform and looking forward to the future. Anyway, so that's it for today's live stream. I hope you found that useful. If you did, give me a like. It does really help with the algorithm. I'm trying to grow this channel so that I can bring you more of this kind of insightful commentary with regards to the economic and financial news. So, anyways, until then, I'll see you at the next video.